All right, can I have everybody's attention, please? Raffle off this $25 Stop and Shop card. Everybody got their tickets ready? All right, ready for the numbers? 519386. You know what? Keep your coupon though. You have to keep your ticket. And then hold on.
And then we're going to have some food and stuff. Okay, Lula Christopher.
I have no idea what I'm going to say, but you know what I am going to do is to take a chair so we can have a conversation, because that's what I do. I want to first congratulate the young women who just, your dance troupe. I want to thank you for your dance, because dance is such an important part of our Afro Latin culture. And without dance, we couldn't create our stories and our history. And through dance is a way that as a cultural group of people, we pass on our spirits as well as our history. That dance comes from a very long place in our spirit and in our history. So thank you all very much. So, my name is Lula Christopher. This is how I always introduce myself. My name is Lula Christopher. I am the daughter of Willie Julia, the granddaughter of Flutie Heath and Lizzie Farrell. I am the mother of Malika Kenyatta and the grandmother of Nyomi and Jalil. And I tell you my history because I come from a solid foundation rooted in African history and lineage. And so when we come together to celebrate Black history, we're talking about our history from the beginning of time, not just our history in the United States. It's also how we became rooted with other cultures, our Latin culture, our African history throughout the world. And so we come together to celebrate that in its entirety. The thing that I do most of all is to work on Black women's health in the United States and the diaspora. And where we have to start with our history currently, where I like to start with our history currently as women, is through our rites of passage as girls and as women. And what that means to talk about the looking at the history of the world through the eyes and lens of Black and Latino women. So what is our history? What is our cultural connection, and how do we connect to who we are? That's a question, so anybody can answer that. How do we connect to our history?
Reading books,
Through books, through education, through music, celebrating our history through Black History Month. And also laying claim to who we are, you know? and that we do have cultural roots. I see a hand over there. Through art. So our cultural expression is through art, music, dance, our history, and each other. You know, one time in my, at our family reunion, one of our themes was link. And how do we link to each other? How do we acknowledge that we link our history through each other? So my history is not my history alone. So if I link to the Latina history, I'm linking real deep for my African roots that is a part of that history. If you reach out in your Latina history, what are you reaching out to? So I guess what I'm sitting here trying to do is to ask us to join as a collective in understanding our history. And I'm a storyteller. So my role here now is to sit here as the storyteller and historian and how we claim who we are. One of the things I know about Bromley Heath is that Bromley Heath saw their history and decided to lay claim as strong tenants and form a tenant organization that turned into a housing corporation. And so we are able to celebrate unity. I really believe in the principles of Kwanzaa, and one of the first principles of Kwanzaa is unity. And how we decide to express unity among ourselves. So in the girls' troop, how do you express unity? In talking, communicating with each other. Someone said sticking together. So I'm going to ask the rest of you to talk a little bit about how as a collective and as our history, how do we express unity? How do you express unity as individuals and as a community?
By accepting each other no matter what race you come from or what different country.
Did you all hear that? Okay. Anyone else? Which guy is that? Okay, I'm gonna tell you, you got a minute. Yeah, we're talking about unity.
Unity. Everyone brought together.
Uh-huh.
There's a reason we all together right now.
Right, and why is that, you think?
We gotta share something special.
Yes, we have to share the specialness of our history, our community, our culture, linked to art, music, dance, song, praise,
And love.
and love. Oh, yeah. So another one of our principles is called UGMA, Collective Work and Responsibility. And how do we use that principle to help us build a community where we can all thrive and grow in? Anyone?
I would think about serving one another, making sure everyone's needs are met.
Making sure everyone's needs are met.
And loving, caring for each other and connecting with each other.
Loving and caring and connecting with each other. Anybody else from over here? Girls? How do you collectively work together? Because if you didn't work together, when you got up here, everybody would be going different ways. So how do you collectively work together?
I know how we work.
Communicating.
Communicating.
We stayed very open-minded. We stayed real to each other, honest, and we just love each other, and we just stay together. We talk about any and everything we need to, like their sisters, one step at a time.
One step at a time, working collectively, and staying open, because we're all different.
Yeah,
We come from
open-minded.
different cultures, different backgrounds, and so in order to build unity and keep our history and our connection, we have to stay open to each other, loving each other, caring for each other, making sure that our community needs are met. Young man.
Helping each other when they're down instead of knocking them down.
That's right. You all can tell me when my time is up. One of the, another principle is called Kukuchagalia. Can you say that with me? Kukuchagalia. And does anyone know what that means? It means self-determination. And when we are determined, when we have agency with ourselves, that means that we can propel ourselves to do the things that we need to do. We express self-determination. And in the Kwanzaa tradition, self-determination means to name ourselves and to speak for ourselves instead of being named, spoken, and identified by others. So how do we know when we have Kukuchagalia going on? And how can we use Kukuchagalia to help us with our historical connection to each other? Come on up.
When the community comes together and becomes one.
Okay. Becoming one with the community. You have to know who you are in order to do that. You have to be able to claim for yourself who you are and what you stand for as a community. Right? All right. There's about 4 other ones, and they are Kuumba, which is creativity, Nia, which is purpose, Imani, which is faith, and I think I'm forgetting one, so if somebody knows it, please let me know. But these are the foundations on which we build our historical base. This is the foundation from which we grow and learn and become as a community. And so we can reflect on those things. That not only help us understand Black history in its context, it also helps us understand Latina history and women's history and history of men and women in the world who are working to make this community great. And so Black history is about us celebrating all of our accomplishments on this planet. So, Yvette, how are you all doing? So what does Black history mean to you? Anybody?
Maybe celebrating a culture.
Celebrating the culture?
It has different meanings for different people.
And what's the meaning for you?
For me, it's mainly culture.
It's mainly culture.
Oh boy, is right.
I'll hold it.
I think it's mainly culture. My reasons why is because I personally read into a lot of books in regards to Puerto Rico. My parents are Puerto Rican. And knowing that the Spaniards took over the Indians basically and then brought in slaves from Africa, it's culture.
It's culture.
It's culture.
It's the interlocking and interconnectedness of culture. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Let's see if I can give somebody else an opportunity. Wait a minute. Well, come on, little brother. You all want to say anything over here about what Black history is for you? And why are you here today to celebrate it?
Black history to me means existence. Without Black history, there would be no life for myself, and it's just existence. So it's an everyday thing for me, and it's an everyday thing for all of us.
Okay. So Black history is like this thing. It's every day. It's not just 1 month of the year, but it is who we are in the context of our lives as we bring our history, our culture, and our traditions with us. Anybody else? I'm going back here.
Giving back to the community.
Everybody?
Giving back to the community
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, Black history to me is just, it's not just a thought, it's a concept to figure out exactly where we came from the beginning, and how far during slavery, how far we branched and reached. It's more like to being born in 1960. I watched a lot of history from the presidents, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, all throughout my life. So Black history to me it's not just I call it an African-American thing. It's come to where during the Civil Rights Movement, all of our history, all joined in one from the Latino community, the women's movement, and it all got started by one culture, which is the human family, the love of one another.
We always dance together, but support each other.
We all dance together, and you know, that dance, I thank you for that word, because when we dance our history with each other, we are participating in a spiritual thing of remembering who we are. When those girls started to dance, my whole spirit got up and danced with them, you know, and the information and the education that we receive from each other, because today, these are my teachers. These young women help me to remember who I am and what I want for myself and what I want for them. And so, as we celebrate Black history, we're celebrating our leaders, our teachers, our spiritual leaders, and those that came before us that made our struggles in the Americas or wherever we happen to land. It gives us a roadmap and a pattern to look at. It provides a very solid foundation for us to stand on and give us a roadmap to follow. So in Black history, we're celebrating ourselves, we're celebrating our ancestors, we're celebrating our legacy, and all of those things that make us who we are. And so, as a community, I like to think of myself as a community social justice activist who's rooted in firmly believing that if we provide a container to tell our stories, to reflect on, that we will become aware of who we are, we will build unity with each other, we will begin the process of taking control of our lives, and indeed, in those 3 steps, we'll begin the process of transformation. And in that transformation, we can heal some of the pain from the past so that we don't have to carry them over into our future. But that transformation begins with each of us individually, so that we can bring the gifts that we have collectively to the table. And then, after we get to that point, it's a matter of trying to figure out how do we maintain all of the gains that we have managed to gather over the years. So I just took you through what I believe are the 5 steps of wellness, which is 1, awareness, 2, building unity, 3, taking control, 4, transformation, and 5 is maintenance. So that's what I have to offer today. So thank you for listening, and thank you for participating with me. And so I'm sure they'll be ready real soon.
Well, we can always do another round. You see, when you get stuck, you got to be prepared. So preparation is Another raffle. All right, can I get somebody to volunteer to do this raffle here? Tracy, let's do it again. And Laura, I really want to thank you for doing that on the fly, but I knew you had it in your heart to do, and I really appreciate that. And God bless you for that. You want to pull the ticket? We're gonna let this young man pull the ticket. We're gonna let you pull the ticket. Reach in your bag. All right, let me see here. 5. Everybody got 5? Everybody got 5? What about 1? Everybody got a 1. What about 9? Yes! Everybody got a 9. What about 3? Yes! Everybody got 3? Yes! Well, the next number is 8. Oh! All right, who has an 8? Oh, you got an 8? So you said it's 5, 1, 9, 3, 8. So who got the 8? Hold up your hands. 3 people. 4 people. So it's out of 5 people. So it's out of the 5 people right here. I'm going to read the number off right quick. 5, 1, 9, 3, 8, 1. Right there in front of us, 519381 is in the house right there. Thank you very much.
We're trying to commissioner to the network of Afro-Latin American and Afro-Caribbean women. So everyone you see here is from a Latin American country. Name a country that you think doesn't have someone of African descent. Any country that you thought about and you say, oh, there's no black people there. Well, the Moors are from Spain, so Spain itself has black folks and African folks. Huh? Santo Domingo. This whole section is from Santo Domingo. Puerto Rico, la compañera aquí es de Puerto Rico. Guatemala, there's an area in Guatemala that's called Livingston, and sister here is from Livingston. So you name a country, there is people. In Argentina, the area that they're from is called Santa Fe, which is about an hour outside of Buenos Aires. In Ecuador, they're all over the place. In Uruguay, they're in Montevideo. In Chile, there's also a community there that's mixed into Santiago, but they're more on the coastal of Chile and Uruguay, which is called Arapias, and that's where they're at. And Puerto Rico, well, it was one of the second ports of the exit and entrance of people of African descent. So to say that a Puerto Rican may not be of African descent is actually dismissing an entire Puerto Rican history. Santo Domingo, to say that Dominicans are not of African descent or don't have their history rooted in an African story is also dismissing their history, because Puerto Rico was one with who? Santo Domingo was one with who? Before Santo Domingo became Santo Domingo, what was it? It was Española, and who was their brother, neighbor, sister? Haiti. And who was Haiti? As it relates to African history, what was Haiti?
First independent nation in the Western Hemisphere.
There you go. First group of free slaves that started the revolution. So to say that Latin America, Santo Domingo, Haiti, all these places are not rooted in their African history is dismissing history. Panama itself was one of the first places of revolution on settlements of Afro-colonials, which were African slaves brought by the Spaniards. And the second wave of people of African descent in Panama were those that came through the construction of the canal. So we are deeply rooted. When I think of Black history, I don't remove myself as someone from Panama. I think it's my history. Because if I think of Panama's history, Puerto Rico's history, Santo Domingo's history, then we're rooted in that history. These are all women from somewhere else. This is my colleagues that are from everywhere. Panama, Uruguay, Puerto Rico, Brazil, Panama, Ecuador, Nicaragua, Panama, Nicaragua. And we all walk and consider ourselves women of African descent. Here's another picture of women who are all from different places. But the thing is that how deeply rooted are we? Sometimes music is the easiest way to have that conversation. This song is Brazilian, and it's a call to the ancestors. So here it is that we're talking about how rooted we are, you know. But if someone heard this, they would think this was Santo Domingo. So the whole thing is to hear the connection of the drums. When you hear the brothers that we're starting today, they play the drums and the continuum of the drums. So this song is from Brazil. And you can hear so this is who knows what this is? Other than Brazilian, it's also a spiritual call. Es santería, se dice en Puerto Rico, en Brasil lo llaman candomblé, en Cuba lo llaman lucumí, pero comenzó de África, pero de los yorubas. So the practice, the spiritual sense of this started from Africa, and they were the Yorubas. And when they got to Cuba, this form of dance and music of calling of the ancestors is called lucumí. In Brazil, it's called candomblé. In Puerto Rico, they call it santería. They call it, mostly santería or lucumí. But in Santo Domingo, in Trinidad, they call it Shango Baptist, right? In Trinidad, they call it Shango Baptist. But it's the continuum of who we are. You can find that everywhere. So this one here is from Belize, and this artist is called Andy Palacio. And who knows about Belize? Where's Belize? Central America, and Belize is actually one of the only Central American countries that's their first language is actually English, not Spanish. But they are mostly Garifunas, and Garifunas are Amerindians who came through St. Vincent. So they are of Indian and African descent, and they have their own language. So this is what Andy is singing right now. He's singing a Garifuna, and actually this song